Hello, it is a Tuesday, which means it's time for another in real life video, and this is the last Tuesday, the very last possible day as well, of the year of 2024. So I figured, hey, this would be an opportune time to do our sort of annual review for the year, right? To sort of look at the channel and sort of what all we have done this year and maybe what all is to come in the near future for next year, right? And sort of just rough ideas and all sorts of fun stuff like that. As per usual, as I've said in other videos, apologies. Bless this mess. We have moved recently. If you're just watching this one, maybe that may be news to you, but we have moved recently, thus there's a bunch of stuff kind of everywhere. Still sort of readjusting and getting an idea for where I want the desk and camera set up. Actually, right now, I've got it set up on a pile of notebooks and my partner's jewelry box that one of her family members made for her out of wood. Very nice. But also very much a temporary solution. I've been thinking maybe there's a way in which I can angle the desk and camera to get more of the natural lighting without sort of blinding me, right? That may be something that we could do for the future. Apologies if I look over here. That is where my screen is, so that way I can sort of check on what the camera is picking up if anything is looking a little too off. Looks good, though. Looks good. But, hey, this is a sort of annual... this is our sort of year in review. We already did... for last week, the year in review when it comes to video games and all of that. Check a look there if you're into sort of the games that I played on and off camera over the course of the last year, and maybe a little bit other stuff too, I guess. I can't really remember. Yeah, stuff about those sort of annual reviews as put out by other, I don't know, establishments, platforms, right? Xbox and Steam or Valve, all that good stuff. Also, additionally, apologies if we have to do a little cut here. I've come down with a pretty mild cold, but a cold nonetheless. If talking a lot gets me to have to cough or whatever, we'll do a little cut, right? Not too sure how long this one will run for, right? But hey, you know, what's the holidays if not getting a little bit of a sickness, right? It's been a wild time, right? Moving with Christmas, with meeting family and all of that, and yesterday was my birthday. Today is New Year's. Just a wild, chaotic time. But I don't know. I kind of enjoy the chaos of it. Anyway, as for the channel, playthroughs that we finished this year, I believe, thinking back to that former video, I believe we had wrapped up and finished Baldur's Gate 2 this year, right? I think we were about halfway done with Baldur's Gate 2, and sort of to, I don't know, to sort of get along through CRPGs, because it was for our CRPG slot, we changed things around and made the CRPG slot nightly, right? Which has worked out, I think, pretty well. It'll be a good way to, like I said, sort of work through a lot of CRPGs, because there's a lot of new ones that I would like to play, as well as no shortage of older ones that I would like to play as well. Just recently, would be a great example would be Warhammer 40k Rogue Trader. I heard that was really, really good from Owlcat. I think they did that, as well as, and then, you know, going even further back, would love to play their 2 Pathfinder games. Would love to mess around with that. I heard those are pretty fun times. And, of course, as we've been going through, after we finished Baldur's Gate 2, we started up Baldur's Gate 3 this year. Once again, with the nightly slot. And that has been, I guess, expectedly in some ways, by far the most popular and most watched, I don't know, whatever was inside of the CRPG slot. It has done pretty dang well for the CRPG slot, which is always kind of chugged along, as it were. The nice thing about it is that because there are a lot of like older retro games right? Like, for instance, Baldur's Gate 2 and 1. They sort of had staying power, right? They're still eternally, like, evergreen. There are still people who always go through and watch those old ones, albeit at a slower rate, but hey, I'll take it. They're still quite looked at, and it makes for a good time, and I don't know, makes for decent analytics on the channel, right? But make no mistake, Baldur's Gate 3 has sort of exploded onto it, starting out with a really strong start, and like I said, still significantly overperforming past CRPG slot entries, right? It's been quite nice. It's been quite nice, especially having it nightly. Like I said, to sort of get through more CRPGs, because I have quite the, I don't know, quite the catalog ahead of us that we can go through. And as I alluded to, probably one playthrough after our initial, like, TAV Baldur's Gate 3 playthrough, I'm quite tempted to try Planescape Torment. I think that will probably be what fills the CRPG slot next. Part and parcel due to some of the tie-ins with Baldur's Gate 3 and Baldur's Gate 2 and 1. Sort of the interconnectivity and the, like, shared world and all of that. As well as the fact that, you know, it's just a seminal classic, Planescape Torment. So that will very, very likely be what next fills the CRPG slot. And if I remember correctly, it's not terribly long. It's not going to run like Baldur's Gate 2 length or 3. And once we wrap that up, from there, I think that would be a good jumping off point for Baldur's Gate 3 again, for the Dark Urge playthrough, which I'm quite interested in toying around with and messing around with. Very much looking forward to that. Yeah, if I had to guess, Planescape Torment, I would guess around like the 75 video mark, right? If I had to just spitball it, going at my rate, going at roughly an hour per video. That's what I would guess. But hey, it remains to be seen. Lord knows I certainly play games at quite the pace of molasses. So other sort of playthroughs that we have finished this year was Dragon's Dogma 1, which has done decently well on the channel as far as numbers are concerned, as far as analytics and metrics are concerned, you know, like viewership, revenue. It's been all right. One point of contention with Dragon's Dogma 1, and I sort of figured this might eventually be the case, is copyright. Copyright issues with sort of the outro. If you've seen the Dragon's Dogma 1 playthrough, or I guess even if you know of Dragon's Dogma, they have the sort of famous old menu song that they used to have, the main menu one, Into Free. Sort of this like rock ballad about Dragon's Dogma. Well, they no longer really own the rights to that. But for the longest time, I was kind of able to just have it up there, right? I don't know why it didn't get auto-detected by YouTube. But now some of them absolutely are being detected by it. But thankfully, because it's at the end of the video, I just mute it, right? So instead you just get like either absolutely nothing or this kind of weird staticky muffled noise. But all of that's sort of like relegated to the end of the video. So it's no big deal, right? Normally, I really go out of my way to try and like make sure like, oh, this is definitely a song owned by the company that made the game, or this is definitely like within YouTube's free audio library. So that way we never have to like worry about this issue in the future. In a similar vein, last year we had issues with that regarding Fallout 2, the Fallout 2 playthrough. Parts of the Fallout 2 original soundtrack are like, these aren't like copyright strikes, which are like the really bad situation where it's 3 strikes you're out situation. These are just copyright claims, wherein sometimes the video is not visible in certain territories or regions or countries, or what is often the case, they sort of like take any sort of ad revenue or whatever that would have otherwise been generated by the video. Whoever owns the rights to the music, right? And like I said, there were some weird issues about that with Fallout 2, weirdly enough. But thankfully, I think those are... we've mostly, like, gotten around them, right? It's not too bad, right? It could be better, but it's not too bad. Also, this year, Dragon's Dogma 1, like I said, did all right. I think I definitely got in there at, like, I don't know, an opportune time where people were kind of hot on Dragon's Dogma 1. That definitely helped, like, bolster viewership. People were getting interested in Dragon's Dogma 1 because Dragon's Dogma 2 was coming out. And as much as I enjoyed, this is another playthrough that we started and finished. Apologies here. We're going to do a quick cut. I got to, like, wipe my nose. I feel a little bit of a drippage coming on, and we'll be right back. All right. Apologies. We are back. Like I said, Dragon's Dogma 2, I would say as much as I enjoyed playing it, right, I really had quite a good deal of fun playing it. It just has it's done pretty poorly on the channel, it's gotta be said, and I think kind of across the board. Not just unique to the channel, my channel itself, but kind of in a lot of places. It kind of just fell off the map afterward. There was that controversy about the microtransactions, which I feel was overblown. But the game itself just wasn't received quite as, like, mind-blowingly as the first one was, right? It wasn't, because it did so much that was quite similar to the first one. I'll give it that. I think a big critique that you could make of that game is that it is retreading a lot of familiar ground. Even the parts that are, like, intriguing and are, like, I don't know, compelling and almost feel like borderline twists are very reminiscent of the first game, right? Which I think is a little bit unfortunate, but like I said, I still really enjoyed it quite a bit. Though there's no mistaking, it has definitely underperformed on the channel. Thankfully, it was a bit of a shorter run. Wasn't too bad. The channel in general, we're now thankfully kind of set up to where, like, one playthrough doing underperforming isn't gonna, like, murder me or whatever, right? We're at a period where, like, yeah, it sucks, but we can weather the storm, you know? And so we have. But still, I don't really regret playing it, because I think either way I would have played it either for recording or, like, in my own free time, right? But like I said, as far as analytics are concerned, didn't really pan out. Sort of the inverse of Baldur's Gate 3, and sort of the inverse of another thing, another game, if we're just thinking of analytics. We didn't finish this game this year. We did last year, and it was quite a shorter one. It was a bit of a shorter playthrough, and we did it toward the end of last year, but what still continues to be, like, a shockingly good, as far as analytics are concerned, it's, like, surprisingly overperforming, but it is Fable 1. Fable 1 this year continues to, like, be doing really well on the channel. I remarked on this last year that Fable 1 was, like, doing shockingly well, and I was, like, appalled and surprised at how well it was doing. That is continued into this year. It has been doing way better than, like, it's not, like, mind-blowingly good, but it's doing way better than I thought it would. I thought this would just be, this will be a fun little romp down memory lane because I enjoyed Fable 1. Well, lo and behold, I guess a lot of people were into having a fun little romp down memory lane with someone else sort of taking the reins, as it were. But that is sort of compelled me, like, oh gosh, with Fable reboot or whatever coming down the pipe, maybe we should really consider getting, bumping that up in sort of like the priority list, you know, doing playthroughs through cloud streaming or whatever for Fable 2 and 3. And just as before, I anticipate those to be, like, decently short playthroughs, right? They won't be, like, I don't know, multiple hundreds of videos long, I would presume. There won't be anything close to that. But hey, nonetheless, it's been a very pleasant surprise. Other things continuing to sort of chug along as they have. Despite what the world would have you believe, Starfield has continued to do decently well on the channel. Obviously, it's a new IP. It ain't gonna do as well as like something like Fallout or Elder Scrolls, but still, it's doing quite good. It's carrying its weight, as it were, as far as analytics and viewership are concerned. As for the others I've mentioned, Fallout, we started the Fallout 3 playthrough. There was the Fallout TV show. We did our Fallout 4 Let's Revisit sort of like mini-series, which did shockingly well when I put it out at the time. It's had a pretty short and brief tail on it. Not many people have gone back to actually watch that, which understandable. It's not like a full playthrough. It's me like sort of jumping in on a character that's already developed. But it was a very fun diversion for like about 20 or so videos, wasn't it? Yeah, I think so. It was very enjoyable. It was very chill, very fun. I don't know, as far as analytics are concerned, like I said, I don't expect it to be like evergreen in the sense of like a regular playthrough, but for what it was, a sort of 20 video, little like brief mini series, as it were, I'm pretty happy with how it turned out, right? And speaking of little mini series and stuff like that, and Fallout, well, I guess we'll take it back a step. We started this year following our completion of Baldur's Gate 2. The year before then, the CRPG slot, we did Fallout 2. And finally, this year, we've started up Fallout 3, which has been, I don't know, what more can I say? It's been doing very well, right? It's been doing quite well on the channel, even though, as far as analytics and metrics are concerned, it's been doing quite well. A bit of an older game, but still, the BGS games, sort of a bread and butter of the channel as far as, offering stability, sort of allowing me to do other things as well. And I just really like them a lot too. That's my dirty secret, is I do really enjoy them quite a bit. And it has been such a joy to go back into Fallout 3 and finally, for once in my life, play through as a very evil and terrible person. I've never played that game being evil, but man, I'm getting a real hoot out of it. By far, the star of the show has been Jericho. Oh my gosh, Jericho has been such a surprise smash hit with both myself and general viewers alike. Everybody loves Jericho. He's such a lovable, miserable old fart. I mean, the game purportedly says he's really old, but he seems like middle-aged at best, right? He doesn't seem that old. But man, just his there's not much character added to companions and stuff in Fallout 3, especially compared to Fallout 4, or if you want to go very contemporary, Starfield. A lot of them are very much just like rough, I don't know, pastiches of people, almost caricatures. And Jericho is no different, but man, he everything just hits just right. He's the perfect blend of like suffering and being miserable and being pissed off. It's incredible. The playthrough has probably elevated Jericho to by far and easily my favorite Fallout 3 companion, right? Like, I can't imagine now playing the game without him. Like, if they do that, the purported remake or whatever, remake or remaster, which, hey, there's been some news about that. I don't know if you've looked in news about Oblivion, but I don't know how much I'm allowed to say, but there's been some news about that. I would assume that a lot of games made on that version of, what was it called? Was it Gamebryo? For that version of BGS games, I would assume that all of the games made on that would be due for getting the remake treatment. Not just what was recently in the news, but also there was a rumor about Fallout 3, right? So I would assume that is somewhere along in the horizon. Maybe we'll get news about that when the next season of the TV show, which I would guess will air maybe early next year, because isn't it like filming a little bit right now, right? I don't know. I guess it's possible they can shove it out the door before the end of this year. right? That's possible, but I don't know. If we're going safe, I would say early next year. If we want to make safe bets, we'll see. But regardless, that has been a delight. Like I said, I expect something to do with that, as well as, the third major game made on that version of that engine, not necessarily one made by Bethesda, but I think if they are out there remaking those two, why would they not do this third one? Why would that not also be in the cards, right? I feel as if that is definitely on the horizon as well. I feel like that's just money on the table. If they've contracted some other studio to do that work, why would they not also sign some papers, dot some I's and all that, and get that working for a little bit of Fallout New Vegas, I feel like that's something to keep an eye out for. It's only a matter of time, I feel. Unless, of course, all of the remake stuff kind of goes up in flames before it's all said and done, right? That's entirely possible, too. Also, like I said, as I was about to say, when it comes to Fallout and sort of miniseries, we did a little bit of Let's Watch, where we watched through the Fallout TV show, and I did a little talking head videos, sort of like this, sort of like in real life videos talking about every 2 or 3 episodes of the Fallout TV show, and that was very enjoyable. It was very good for me too to have sort of a outlet to vocalize and talk about all the cool stuff that I enjoyed about the show. Yeah, but it was very fun, very, very fun show. Like I said, it's fun. It's fun. It's fun and pulpy and good. And what more could you want from it? I'm very much looking forward to the second season. I know there's folks who had qualms with the Shady Sand stuff, but I don't know. I've seen people put it into perspective that, especially now, folks in Fallout getting up in arms over the whole Shady Sands debacle and sort of the permanence of lore and sort of lore drift over time. I know Tim Kaine put out a good chunk of videos sort of talking about this, either directly in response to people sort of the discourse, as it were. But as someone who has kind of primarily gotten into BGS games, which of course, Fallout didn't begin from there. But as an Elder Scrolls enjoyer, there is so much a lack of permanence within Elder Scrolls lore that it kind of does not affect me whatsoever. Like I said, I forgot exactly how it was, but someone put it into perspective that there's so much loosey-goosey stuff going on in Elder Scrolls lore. Everything is an interpretation of an interpretation, and there's several different interpretations of that from different perspectives. Some are incorrect, some are conflicting, some agree with one another. It's very vacuous. It's very everything nothing is never really nailed down in Elder Scrolls lore, sort of by design. It's kind of built, I would say, from the ground up with the intent of servicing the game, right? Where the lore can be bent and twisted to service building a story within a game or building future stories inside of the franchise or whatever. Right. So, coming from that perspective, I don't really have any qualms with the Fallout stuff, right? I don't really care, I guess. I'll just take it for what it is. It ain't that big of a deal to me, right? If this is the lore that they want to go with for here, I will take that as it is. If someone wants to change it around in the future or whatever, so be it. What existed for those CRPGs, I very much enjoyed them, especially Fallout 1. I don't know. Are you not able to cordon off and recognize yeah, this existed at this point of time, and was made with these different people with these different ideas and all of that, and you sort of I don't know, compartmentalize it in a way, sort of treat it as its own separate experience. At least that's what I've done and do with, I don't know, most things, I think. And I think, I don't know, not to toot my own horn, but I feel like that's a good way to go about it. Nonetheless, that has gone over quite well. And in fact, this year as a whole, we only began the IRL videos toward the very end of last year, right? So for the most part, this in and of itself, me talking into a camera, has been a fairly new phenomenon on the channel, which they have performed about as I would expect. They have far less of a tail on them compared to like playthroughs and whatnot. They aren't quite as evergreen, but that's because, we are also tackling a lot of topical issues. So a few of them pop off here and there, a little bit beyond what I was expecting, but overall, I don't know, it's done a lot better than I thought. There's way more interest in me just talking into a microphone, into a camera than I expected. A lot more people tune in for this every Tuesday than I expected. It's been, like I said, overall, it's overperformed as far as analytics and metrics are concerned. It's done a lot better than I thought it would, which, like I've said before in the past, makes me think maybe I should do more than one of these per week, maybe I should be more topical and sort of like if something comes up that I just want to talk about, I should probably just pop on the camera and just talk about it, right? It's been surprisingly good. It's done quite well. I've enjoyed it as well. Like I really thoroughly enjoyed. I like having an excuse to put on a little outfit and all of that for the camera and all that. Man, I love it. I love everything about it. That ought to do it for the in real life stuff. Let's see what else. Mentioned Baldur's Gate 3. That's also done very good. We had our sort of Fallout 4 Let's Revisit. That's done quite well. Starfield continues to chug along and do well. Same goes for Morrowind. All of our old stuff continues to sort of perform as it has. Shorts, of course, we saw this mostly last year where YouTube Shorts and all of that, they kind of recombobulated the algorithm and no longer, if you put out a short, and this is true even of like large channels, I'm not alone in this, where you put one off, it's not just going to like start popping off like nobody's business, right? But still garners a good decent amount of viewership, at least for myself, for how simple they are to make. They still continue to be worth it for the most part, unless I'm like super busy, in which case I'll hold off for a bit and I'll just do a batch of them or whatever, right? Yeah, that's pretty much shorts are about the same as where they've been. The numbers, like I said, have definitely been lower, but still worthwhile to do it, I think. As far as like revenue is concerned, it's still pretty bad, right? It's always, they've never been there to sort of draw in money, more so to get eyes on other parts of the channel, even at severely diminished returns. It's still worthwhile for that, I think. What else? Goodness gracious. Oh, Morrowind Mondays, that continues on. We sort of talked recently about Morrowind Mondays and sort of the future of it, the distant future of it, when it comes to Volume 3 in Tamriel Rebuilt. Just recently, they did the Abetian Shores stuff. I've talked about, I would love to look at, in the coming year and going forward, I'd love to do more one-offs, sort of looking at mods and stuff, right? I've gotten an interest in it, right? Thanks mostly in part to Tamriel Rebuilt and playing that on the channel. I've kind of really enjoyed the experience. It's kind of given me confidence and sort of better wherewithal, sort of better way to feel out like how to proceed with it. It's definitely something that I want to do, right? Probably take higher priority because also, like I mentioned before in the previous video where we talked about Morrowind Mondays Volume 3, I expect it will do decently well on the channel, right? I expect that. Just as well, I previously mentioned making use of the webcam more for making regular playthroughs, right? I sort of talked about this a little bit on Blue Sky, which is now sort of like my social media of choice if you're down with that, unless it's FitPics, but I haven't had opportunity for FitPics because of, all the moving and whatnot and the holidays. But hey, if you want to see me baking some cookies, I did have the opportunity to put some of that up there on Instagram. For all these links and for all this stuff, you can either find on like the channel's like main hub page if you go to like /Lyle Shnub, or in the description of nearly every video, I think. Regardless, I mentioned and talked about sort of the advent of AI and like generative video, generative content being on the horizons, and sort of like, well, not even on the horizon, but coming right at us, sort of adding in a little bit of a face cam, a little bit of a webcam, whatever, in just like a corner, as everyone does, or not everyone, but many people do these days. I feel is a great way to sort of differentiate and sort of establish, like, not establish, but sort of, God, what was the terminology I even used on my like little post? Sort of helps. It's just another step to further convey to the viewer that this was made by a real human being, right? That there is, in some form of the word, there is still that like human component, you know, that anything that I can do to help convey the human element even more, I feel like is only a win. And like I've said, a lot of people, though not everyone, has already expressed like, oh yeah, I would totally be down for that. I would love to see like, however your dumb face looks whenever something wild pops off in the game. Not in those words exactly. But hey, definitely something I'm into. And once again, that's just more excuses for me to put a little outfit and all that, right? Which reminds me, oh my gosh, should I just do this right here and right now? Maybe so. Maybe impromptu, I will just do this. Yeah, why not? This is not sponsored in any way. However, there is a made-to-measure clothing company that specialize in shirts that I really like. Some people go out of their way and reach out to get sponsorships from them, but this is not a sponsorship. This is purely my friend referral code. If this is something that you have an interest in, let me know, and I will just put out my referral code. I think I'll just start putting it in the YouTube description and all of that. It's literally not like, they haven't paid me for it. This is literally just my friend referral code, where like, oh, if you want a shirt, you'll get $20 off your first order. And then, if you buy one, then I will also get $20 off my next one. Right. So like I said, it's literally just like, you could do this too, right? If you have friends and family, who want to do this, they offer like the referral code freely. But this is from like one of my favorite places. This shirt I'm wearing right now, this indigo sort of like super, heavyweight Oxford cloth button down shirt. It is from there as well, is from that company. Proper Cloth is the name. They're quite good. They offer you a couple remakes and all of that, but, like I said, I'm not really sponsored for this. Maybe we'll talk about it. Yeah, I should probably make like a future updated video sort of about like, oh, this is all the information about the Patreon and all of that stuff, all sort of in one video, little codes and stuff, referral codes and affiliate codes and junk like that. I'll put that all in a future video, right? Probably be a good idea to do that for the new year. And I'm thinking like update it every year or so. But nonetheless, that's that for now. If you're into that, like I said, these are like pretty high-end ones. So these are not cheap. These are not cheap. These are ones that ideally will last you multiple years. This isn't the type of thing that you should be thinking about like, I'll get it, I'll wear it once. No, this is the thing where like you get in there and like, this is for real, right? This is the kind of like, I save up to get these. They're very nice. But like I said, to it gets me 20 smackers off my next one too. Anyway, it's in the description. Let's see. Anything else? Mentioned having like webcam and stuff. Oh yeah, I was thinking sort of along the lines of having the webcam and all of that. I kind of want to do a test run with it. But editing the videos a little bit more too, right? I'm very, like, there's so much stuff that I could very easily cut and chop up and chop out. I mentioned this before in past videos, past IRL videos, wherein this could severely, like, warp the video lengths, so it may be unpredictable. So if you're looking forward to, like, it'll be roughly an hour of this every night, I watch this as I'm doing whatever, which usually takes about an hour, right? I listen to it in the background and sort of watch whenever something interesting that I think interesting happens. I go and look at it, maybe rewind a little bit and have a look. So this will kind of mess with that. But I've thought about, like, we should be chopping some of this up, right? I want to experiment with that because there are definitely parts where, like, I think making shorts has definitely aided me in sort of this, right? In sort of seeking brevity, right? Cutting to the chase, as it were. I would love to experiment with, like, doing a bit more editing. And like I said, just cutting out, like, the chaff, as it were. Periods where, like, I'm just looking at inventory. I'm looting a bunch of sacks of grain and getting bread or potatoes out of there, right? I think I mentioned about, like, cabbages or something in a past one. I like doing that. I love doing that, but I know not everybody wants to see that. So in this, I would just, like, cut it out, right? We would just cut to the point where, like, oh, okay, I've looked through it all. Cool. My inventory is now populated with this, right? We'll just get to more, like, I don't know, action within, like, I don't know, fighting enemies and stuff, getting quest dialogue and stuff, reading flavor text and all of that. Like I said, cutting out a lot of inventory management, which I already try to do by way of, like, planning it to where inventory management happens between videos, stuff like that. Sort of looking through skills, you know, the more clerical work, just cutting a lot of that out and getting sort of to the point. And in some games, sometimes that is like traveling from point A to point B, wherein nothing really happens there, and there's no, like, super wild monologue that pops off as we're, like, going from point A to point B. Right. I can't help but think back to the Skyrim playthrough and how many times we ran back and forth from, like, Windhelm and the College of Winterhold, right? Or even Solitude, or what do you call it? The Windstad Manor, I think it was. Right? How many times we went back and forth from there? A lot of that would end up ultimately getting cut out if there wasn't anything, like, wild that popped off, if there wasn't, like, a interesting, I don't know, world event or whatever. Like I said, I want to experiment with it, and I think the way to experiment with it is through, like, a Behold video, which I want to kind of, I don't know, for lack of a better term, rebrand them. I don't want to, like, just say, like, Behold, because nobody outside the channel really knows what that is, right? I want to make them more accessible to folks who are unfamiliar with the channel. So it'll just be something, like, very generic or whatever, right? But that's sort of what my thinking is. We'll do a test run with sort of, like, a look at a game that I've been interested in, like something like Stalker 2 or, like, Indiana Jones, a new game. I definitely want to play those a little bit. And like I said, those would be great for, like, a preview video or whatever, a Behold video, as it were. Which I think, in talking about that, I think that covers pretty much all of our bases, right? Is there anything I'm forgetting? There might be. There very well might be, but I don't think so. Right? I don't think there is. Yeah. All in all, a pretty steady as she goes sort of year, right, for the channel. right? Nothing really wild popping off. Like I said, there's been some overperformers, there's been some underperformers, right? It's all kind of worked out at the end of the day. As far as analytics and metrics and all of that go, like I said, I've kind of hopefully built the channel in mind to where, like, you know, if there's something that underperforms, we can weather it, right? If there's something that overperforms, I try not to rely on, like, oh, this is overperforming, therefore it's going to continue doing that into the future, or this is the new normal, right? I feel like you can work yourself into a trap that way. So, I don't know, generally just trying to tread carefully. Thanks, as per usual. Like I said, I probably should remake that old Patreon, like, crowdfunding video, right? I think that was recorded in 2022, toward the end of the year, I think. Probably redo that, so you'll probably see another one here coming up. Do it. I think it would be a good idea to redo it every year, right? That way it looks kind of current, because, I don't know, I feel like that's at least owed to people, because that's sort of like the main video that everybody sees if they decide to, like, tip on Patreon or Coffee or YouTube or whatever the heck, right? So I feel as if, you know, updating it once a year feels about right, you know? So look forward to it or dread it, whichever. But regardless, of course, I would be remiss not to mention thank you to all the folks who have gone through there, who have tipped the channel through all of that. There were folks who even, like I said, tipped through YouTube and Patreon very recently on account of Christmas Day and on account of my birthday. Thank you very much. That's like, I don't really get a holiday bonus from YouTube or anything. That is purely from folks who sort of decide to do that, right? Thank you very much. It helps a lot. Like I said before, moving and all of that, whatever you see is kind of, you know, thanks to the kindness and generosity of folks, right? Thank you very much. Anybody who sort of, throughout the last year or even going further back, who sort of decide to tip on Patreon with some amount of monthly regularity, or doing one-offs on, like, Coffee or YouTube's systems where they have, like, the membership and the super chats and all of that, or even, like, directly through PayPal or whatever, right? Thank you very much. It, like I said, it really does help a buttload. Let's see. Is there anything else? Of course, thank you as well to folks who just watch, right? Appreciate it nonetheless. Right? That's part of the fun. Folks who write in and comment and sort of interact, and even folks who are just watching or whatever, appreciate a whole lot. It's, like I said, it's a large part of what makes doing this super duper fulfilling, and is part and parcel of the reason why a lot of folks have interest in it, right? I assume it is sort of that component where it feels incredibly fulfilling anytime you get a message from someone who says, like, oh, this sort of, like, accompanies me throughout my day, or this helped me out through like a harder period of my life or whatever. I know it's not really wild what you do or whatever, but make no mistake, it had, like, an impact on me, and like it helped me get through, like, a tougher period. There's no shortage of messages I get like that throughout the year, in different places, YouTube comments, or, like, even people who reach out to, like, email or whatever, or various social media and all of that. Very much, like I said, it is like an absolute honor that anyone would want to spend their free time sort of chilling with a video of mine, you know? And it is incredible that the way in which people have said, like, oh, this, like, it was never the intent, but it is by far a, like, very, like I said, heartening side effect, where people are said, like, yeah, this has become, like, such a chill thing for me. Like, you know, I don't know how else to, like, verbalize it, how better to vocalize it or to talk about it, but it makes it to be, like, it is incredibly fulfilling, right? There are few things as fulfilling as getting a message like that. Thank you so much. I think that ought to do it for this year's annual. Goodness, I still do need to record a couple ones. It is New Year's Eve, right? So probably going to have to do those a little bit on the shorter side, right? Because this one certainly went on a little bit longer, but probably be good for me anyway, because like I said, I still got this cold situation. As mild as it is inconvenient. All right. That ought to do it for 2024. The next In Real Life video will be in the new year. Until next time, please take care of each other.